Is YouTube ruining the audio industry? That's what we're going to be debating today on the Working Audio Tools podcast with myself, Ed Thorne, and co-host Paul Third. But first, a word from our sponsors. Baby Audio sponsor the Working Audio Tools podcast, and this Black Friday month, all of their plugins are available in the Baby Audio Complete Bundle with 76% off. That's 12 creative plugins for $279, which is just $23 per plugin. As if that discount isn't enough, get an extra 15% off any Baby Audio order at www.babyaudio.io with VIP code WATS15 at checkout. This discount stacks on top of all Baby Audio Black Friday sales deals this month. Links in the description below. So, Paul, we may need to be careful with this episode because we will be indicting ourselves potentially in this subject. But there's a lot of concerns we have around the YouTube community and the content creators. And there's a lot of parallels between that and certain concerns we have regarding being members of the audio community ourselves. What are your initial thoughts?
Obviously, this is multifaceted and there's obviously many different tangents that we can go on. So I'll try and keep this more in line with the audio journey that we're on. So I would say that for us, again, in terms of like the audio journey itself and the importance of the audio journey, if we look at the things that may be detracting or maybe hindering your audio journey, I would say probably one of the hardest things we have right now is honesty and trust. I think that YouTube has become a place where shilling is, and I've said it the nasty word already, but it is something that is very common. And people are finding it hard to find people that they trust because people are just making videos. I don't know if it's because they need the money and they're not getting enough money from, mixing and mastering or music production. I don't know what it is. But there is an issue just now with trust to the point where, as I've mentioned, I've now got another one. I've got 4 mentoring clients who pay me just genuinely to ask me questions and have one-to-ones. And the reason they're paying me is because they've went on other people's courses, they've followed other YouTubers, and they've basically came around full circle and they're like, I'm just as confused as I started off. And they just want a human being to be like, right, okay, I'll give you the best of the advice that I can. I'm not in the position that you want to be in yet, but yeah, sure, if you feel it's certain things I can help you with, I'll do it. So I'd say that I think when YouTube first started, that was a good place. I think, Warren and Graham Cochran and, many channels were really delivering so much amazing content. But it's now got to a point where if it's not shilling, it's, oversaturation. It's covering topics that's already been covered and people condescending other people, or people going over the exact same topics and just adding, changing a slightly different thing just for views and clicks, and it's just the regurgitation of content. I think that's kind of what I would kind of input for just now.
And you've jumped to the end of my list of notes already, but with a great point, which is ultimately misinformation and also a lack of accountability for delivering correct information, I think, which, as you pointed out, is a problem. There is no way to police this. You are trusting the people of influence. I hate that phrase. I hate being labelled an influencer, but when you are creating content and delivering it in a factual manner, as I think you and I do very well, you are putting yourself into a position of authority and therefore influence. And we have to be careful with that, but there are some who don't, and this ties in with another problem, which is the scene of YouTube has changed definitely in the last 6 years. For example, when I did my first ever audio interface comparisons, the first one I did, the Apollo versus Scarlett, were 2 interfaces I owned. I had them. That was a 100% impartial, unbiased comparison. And then the next one I did, where I compared 10 audio interfaces, I bought them all on a fucking credit card and then sent them all back, and it cost me about 150 quid in postage just to do that video, which thankfully made me more than that back in affiliate sales. But the point being that from then, when you get noticed by brands, and all YouTubers fall for this, you eventually start getting offers for free gear, offers of payment for videos. And as you do more and more videos and understand the algorithm, and as over that last 5 years, it'll be 5 years in January for me since I started my channel. Essentially over that period, the YouTube landscape has changed, whereby YouTubers have now effectively taken over from the advertising space in magazines. And some people fall for this. I very much remember getting excited when Audient said they'd give me an interface in exchange for a video. Previously, it was distributors saying, yeah, we'll lend you one, and you're doing a video. And that coincided with the journey every YouTuber makes or goes on, whereby you have to play the algorithm, which from 5 or 6 years ago gets more and more competitive and more difficult to navigate. So you then start playing the algorithm game, which means either creating successful content, which comes in various forms, whether that be clickbaity, controversial, or product, review / sales-based videos. And it's very easy to fall into a trap of following the money. But once you understand that videos take hours and sometimes days, I've spent 2 weeks on a video before, you start realizing that the reward is very low compared to what you're putting in. The return is very low compared to what you're putting in. So there was a natural gravitation, I think, for all YouTubers or most YouTubers. I know some people who don't do this and never have, but I noticed it myself. There was a gravitation towards, well, I could do a video on that product, but I don't need it in my studio, so I'm not going to buy it. They're not going to pay me, so I'm not interested, because that video is going to take 2 days. Why should I give up my value time for that? That then can generate a culture of, well, I'm only going to talk about stuff that people pay me for, whether it be expensive products or cash payments. This is quite insightful YouTuber information for those who don't really understand how YouTube works, but most brands will give you hardware because they have a budget to give out units for marketing purposes rather than paying you cash. Some can do both, and that's fine. That's up to the YouTuber to negotiate. But ultimately, we are advertisers now, and a lot of brands don't get this, and a lot of the viewers don't get this, but where we sit is in this area of low accountability, where we're putting out content that people rely on because they can't be bothered finding out their own information. People can't be bothered making their own decisions, so people need us to influence those decisions. That's where we need to be held to account. Also talking about sales, moving on to things like courses, the YouTube industry has changed in that now it is a sales funnel for services. Mixing and mastering on my website, Paul's, mixing consultation and coaching courses. We are sponsored by ourselves on this podcast, it seems. It's changed to being a sales funnel. So there's always, and I feel this, and I think you would agree, particularly with the American YouTubers, there's always a sales pitch. There's always something they're trying to sell. And this is where YouTube gets difficult to navigate, and I understand why people don't trust the platform as much as they used to. 6 years ago, it was honest reviews based on gear that people were buying for their studios. Now it's, let's say all the good things about a product because they've been given it and paid to create that video. So I get why people are fed up of it. I'm fed up of it. What do you think, Paul?
It's a very, very, very difficult world, okay, because, as you said, the landscape has changed. I think the biggest issue that we've got is that, and I would say that is very, 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 American-based. I do like to think that the Brits have a little bit more integrity. Now, that's not to say that every, American audio YouTuber is a shill, right?
That's exactly what I heard. Did everyone else hear that, guys?
And what I can see is that a lot of big channels have sold out, a ton of them. And it's frustrating because a lot of them built their channel on giving good advice. They built that trust, and then what they've done is they're using that trust to sell products that they don't care about. Now, I think something that's kind of really brought it to the forefront is not everybody likes Weaver beats. But I remember we met Weaver when we were in LA, and he keeps on popping up on my algorithm, and a lot of the things that keep on cropping up, it's on his second channel, is basically when he's reviewing a lot of other people reviewing stuff, and he's quite good at figuring out when somebody's being dishonest and somebody's shilling, and he's made a few comments on certain YouTubers that, I think you can take a guess on who some of the YouTubers that he's went for. It's pretty obvious these days. But I think what is a shame about this constant need for, a YouTube channel being a sales funnel for, gear and plugins and whatever else, is that it then makes the audience feel like they need to purchase lots and lots of plugins and lots of gear. Now, true, many people could turn around and to us and say, well, you do that. Yes. Now, I'm going to be honest, and I've always been honest with everybody. I do it because I want free shit. I do it because I want free shit for me, right? And that's a big difference. And I was thinking about this today, funnily enough, because I knew Ed was thinking about this as a video idea. And I was sitting there thinking of I've not done as many paid videos as many people I would think that have done. I think it's under 12 or something in 3 years, which is absolutely nothing compared to other YouTubers. It's around that. It's not as much as you think. And I was like, right, do I still use all the stuff that I was, paid to do a video on? And there's not one thing that I don't use to this day. I rattled away everything and I was like, yep, because the decision I made, and the decision I always make, is that if I'm interested in the product and I would use it and I'm going to get it for free and I'll get paid to talk about it, it's an absolute no-brainer. I would be an idiot not to do it. And I think many people get this whole thing about when something's paid, we can't trust their opinion. And
that's annoying because that's not always the case.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, you've got to put it into context that as long as, in my opinion, as long as you say, again, there's a little thing in the top right that says it's paid promotion, and not all YouTubers.
Nobody's doing that. Breaching YouTube rules massively.
There's lots of YouTubers that don't put that, or again, they at least don't say it. Every single video I've done that's involved me being physically paid, I've always said this is paid. I normally say it at the start of the video because I'd much rather that if you came onto the video and you don't believe in any paid content whatsoever, I tell you at the start so you could fuck off. If you want to fuck off, fuck off. I'm like, it doesn't bother me. I don't care. But I think that for what I find with a lot of the UK lot is that I find that we'd only really want to cover products that we're genuinely interested in. I think Ed has a little bit of a different niche because Ed is a trusted guy for audio interfaces. People genuinely want to know if an audio interface comes out, how it compares to X, Y, and Z. That is Ed's specific niche. He is that person. So again, there's no problem, for Ed doing that. But if Ed was, was to start, kind of doing a lot of paid promotion for things that's not really in his niche and is a bit kind of random, then yeah, people would be like, I'm not sure I can trust this guy. But at the same time, if it's something that Ed's going to use, then he's entitled, to make a video on it. And I think that's where we should keep this whole place, is that it's okay to make the odd video about, a product. And yes, of course there'll be affiliate sales. Yes, of course we're trying to make a fucking honest buck, because at the end of the day, YouTube pays fucking that. It's an absolute sliver. It's fucking disgusting what YouTube pays for the amount of money that we know that they make off the top line. But I think at the end of the day, what the biggest issue that we have on YouTube is that good audio engineering channels have turned into QVC. A lot of the Sweetwater channels are just abysmal now. I'm not going to name names. I want to name names, but just to kind of keep it a little bit PC. You'll know who these certain channels that are sponsored by Sweetwater, and there's some content creators that have got over 1,000 subscribers.
100,000.
And I've seen some of the videos that they do. Yeah. And I've seen some of the videos, and I've obviously this is sponsored by Sweetwater. I mean, I seen one and I sent it to Ed, and I was like, I don't even think he's plugged it in and listened to it. It was basically it was a 4-minute video, and it was about a pair of speakers, and it was, here it is, here's the specs, here's what it looks like. And it was 4 minutes done. I was like, wow, that is pure advertising. That is genuinely QVC on audio. Where I think, what I always try and do is I always try and make my channel to follow my audio rabbit holes. That's the way I've always been. If we look at my audio journey on YouTube, it's been a fucking it's been a fluctuating place. I went from deep diving plugins, I went through convolution, then I went through plugin doctor phase, and then I went through the access analog phase, analog versus digital, and then I went to speakers, and then I went to fucking mixing on headphones, which is my new thing. And then I went into like lots of audio science
Yeah, but the
and
beauty
stuff.
of what you were doing was you were following what interests you, and the chances are, as it was proven, that would interest other people. And that's what we decided upon when we were doing the podcast. We thought we need to be totally transparent. We're not claiming to be successful, authoritative mix engineers. We're just telling you our stories and our development as our careers evolve and meander as they go. So the idea of being honest and transparent. I think the YouTube market lent itself to becoming very product-based, based on the fact that in the last, again, feels like 6 years, the rate at which technology has improved and the amount of products that have come out has gone from being, an average home studio setup to an amazing cheap home studio setup that's saturated, and as we've discussed, everything's as good as it's going to get, pretty much. And it's lent itself for YouTubers to jump on all those opportunities to make content. However, now we're saturated and everyone's bored of it, and everyone's saturated with information. There's no new ways of talking about a Pultec plugin. There's no new Pultec plugin that ever needs to be invented or come out.
Nope.
Which brings me on to another subject, which is FOMO.
This episode is also sponsored by Sonable. Sonable on this Black Friday have up to 70% off selected plugins and bundles, with the Smart Essentials bundle, which includes Smart EQ4, Smart Comp 2 and Smart Limit, being priced down to £85 from £209. And this Black Friday sale also includes their Pure bundle, which includes all of their Pure plugins. This is £45, down from £129. And as I said earlier, it's not just the bundles. Smart Comp 2 and Smart Limit are down to £45 each. And Smart EQ4, which I'll cover a little bit later on in the episode, is down to £49 from £109. So check out the Sonable website and make sure that you don't miss out on these amazing Black Friday deals.
YouTube has somehow created a culture of FOMO, fear of missing out. And this applies to several elements. One is knowledge acquisition. You're bombarded with titles and thumbnails that say you can't mix unless you know this one trick, and this one trick will save your mix, or this one trick will make you sound professional. And all those things probably leave, the average person, certainly I've suffered from this, feeling not good enough. Feeling like I need to know every single trick out there in order to succeed. Now, the beauty of this platform is that everybody has a slightly different take on doing the same things. And it's always worth adding tools to your toolbox. One of the great things about our friendship is, you turned me on to clipping. I was like, I don't fucking care about clipping. What use is that? I've just bought a mastering limiter with a clipper in and I can hear what it's doing. And it's genuinely helped me step up my masters. That's amazing. So if you are watching YouTube and you're trying to get information, don't leave any stone unturned, because the amount of information out there is amazing. But use what works for you. Don't feel intimidated or like you're not good enough if you don't have X exciting new trick, game-changing, revolutionary trick that so-and-so's talking about. Because nothing's new at this point. Nothing is The only really creative technical YouTuber, I think, at the moment is Nicholas from Panorama Mixing and Mastering.
Yeah,
he's delivering some really intelligent content. So go and follow him.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think that I remember when Nicholas first reached out to me when he was kind of like starting out at his channel, and he was basically asking me advice, and I was like, not that I took him under my wing or anything, but I gave him a lot of advice. And I was like, look, think about this, and this is how YouTube works. And because I know the YouTube landscape very, very well now. I think I know when a video will do well and when it won't do well. But I think even when you mention about clippers, right, the issue is that the actual practice of it is very, 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 very simple. Again, when I taught Ed, about why I use clippers, about why I was taught to use clippers, it's very simple. And the reason that you use a clipper is because it allows a limiter to have better timing, and, you can add perceived loudness in certain things. And if you use it on certain things, it could give you actually, less limited sounding mixes that are actually loud and mixes that you can push loud. But a big issue for me on YouTube is that something as simple as a clipper, and the reason why it's used, if we take, the AP mastering example, he made for me, a terrible video talking about limiters and clippers. And now, when it comes to limiters versus clippers, there are hundreds of videos about this. But what he did was, he, in my opinion, intentionally overdone it with a clipper. And he stuck a clipper on every single track in the mix, overclipped it, compared it to a limiter, and then was like, does this not prove that like clippers are a scam? I'm like, they're not a scam. It's very, 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 very simple. Like a clipper does a certain thing, and a limiter does a very certain thing. I mean, a limiter has an attack and release. A clipper doesn't. A clipper is basically just a softer, hard knee. It's simple as that. But what happened was, I think it was kind of in relation to a video Nicholas had made, because Nicholas was sharing a few things that he'd learned about, clipping and certain things, and it just got too much in the weeds. And I think that I've been a culprit of that certain times in the past, where I've went into very very technical elements of things because I'm that way. But many people have reminded me, is like, Paul, that's very good. You understand why you need to do that. You understand why it does what it does. But are you actually going to think about that when you're mixing?
Well, you might do. I think education is massively important. But one problem you've stumbled on there is that guy was delivering one opinion, and opinion and education aren't necessarily the same thing. And there's no gatekeepers to the information. So YouTube is just a cesspit of opinions interspersed with some facts and a lot of polar opposite opinions and a lot of vitriol to go with it. I mean, we've noticed a degradation in the quality and standard of comments, even just on the podcast, but let's not go into that in terms of breeding negativity. DistroKid sponsor the Working Audio Tools podcast, and you can get 30% off your first year's subscription using the VIP link in the YouTube video description and podcast show notes. DistroKid makes distribution of your music easy with unlimited uploads, and you get to keep 100% of your royalties and earnings. Join over 1 million artists who rely on DistroKid to get their music into Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all other streaming platforms now and in the future. The new DistroKid app is available on iOS. Go and download it from the App Store now. From here, you can upload new releases. You can see your DistroKid earnings and withdraw these earnings. You can view and share your hyperfollow links. You can check your streaming statistics from Spotify and Apple, and even add and edit lyrics and song titles. So keep track of your releases on the move with the new DistroKid app, available on iOS. Download it from the App Store now. Expanding on the FOMO chapter that I've got written down, we also need to address plugin and gear acquisition that is plaguing YouTube. And, titles such as, if you don't have this plugin, you can't mix. And if you don't have this piece of gear, you'll suck. And you'll never be professional unless you have this. I think I understand where that comes from, because the algorithm rewards controversy and clickbait titles like that, and scaremongering titles garner views. And YouTubers in a saturated market, as we know, have to use these techniques to get the views, because we need the views to get the pitiful ad revenue and affiliate sales that make the day or 2 days worth of time it takes to make these videos worthwhile doing. Or you have to get sponsored, by DistroKid. Tenuous link into that advert. But I think there's an element of restraint that we need to navigate, because I think feeding off people's lack of confidence is pretty disgusting. And that's something that I may have been guilty of, especially with the Universal Audio videos. Jesus, people hate UA. And usually it's the people who can't afford it. And I've had this chat with a distributor today, and he's done videos and the products have been slammed There's various products we've talked about recently, Paul, where products have been slammed in the comments. Who by? Only people who can't afford it. If you can't afford something, that's not a reason to slag it off in the comments, especially if you haven't used it. You have no right to comment on something you haven't used. And also, it's no reason really to slag off and be negative towards the messenger, as we discussed in a previous episode.
No, what I think is the most important, Ed. I think that, what we are establishing here is that being a YouTuber isn't as easy as what many people make it out to be. There's a reason why so many audio channels get to about 1,000, 2,000 subscribers and then fall off the wagon because they struggle to get to that, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. And, I'm at a point where I'm at 23,000. Now, I understand that, a big reason why I'll never reach the certain heights is because I am polarising, you know what I mean? My accent is, an issue. And again, not everybody likes fucking negative comments. Not everybody likes my attitude. Not everybody likes the way that, I can be a little bit arrogant and I can be a little bit smarmy. And it's just me, I like to intentionally wind people up sometimes because it's part of my character.
Go on, do the accent.
What, the SSL accent? Oh, why? Why? Right. I know what I'm thinking about getting back to that. I think my channel's starting to get bored again.
I like the DJ skits in the club with the on in the background and the why? The helium voice or whatever it is.
Well, I think Filmora's taken it away, or they've made it paid. So I'll probably just need to pay it because I've found myself being really bored by my videos, but when I'm editing them, and that's something that I always found that I used to put those skits in because I'd get bored of my own content, genuinely. But I think why we're deciding to talk about this is because I think something that you need to do as a viewer is understand the mechanisms of the way YouTube works and the way the landscape is. And really, it's your job to manage this, right? Certain things aren't going to change,
But do they have
right?
to know or understand it? The average person listening doesn't give a shit how we make these videos. And why would they? Because they just want the entertainment that we provide or the factual content in other videos for subjects they're looking into. They don't care how B-roll gets shot or how you have to be a script writer, a video producer, a script researcher, a fact checker, a device comparison researcher, an audio engineer, a director of photography. The list goes on. No one cares. So why do they have to navigate this?
Only because I think that they need to start managing YouTube. I think that the reason we've made this video is because we see and again, I've talked about it in videos before and on my channel about how everybody needs somebody to tell them what to do and what to buy. It's like we're unable to make our own decisions. Me and him have been there, right? We understand what it's like when you feel lost and you feel like you need a bit of guidance. And again, we're lucky that we've got mentors that have helped us. But that's the reason why we made this podcast, was so when we were mixing, we were making mistakes and it was hurting, publicly making mistakes and being chastised by certain people online. And we grew from that and we shared that. And I think that, what we want people to do on YouTube is to be a little bit more selective about who they watch. And, I would genuinely get to a point where, actually, you know what? It is getting that way, Ed. I probably don't need to tell people how to manage things because I see it in the comment sections where people are like, I don't watch X, Y, and Z YouTuber anymore. So, and that's why you'll see YouTubers with over 100,000, subscribers, and, they get like 1,000 to 2,000 views a video for a review because that's all their channel's turned into. But I think the advice that I'd give anybody, right, that's starting out or is in this kind of place that we're in, and they watch YouTube a lot and they watch a lot of content creators, is to take everything with a pinch of salt. Everything is subjective because one thing works for one person, it won't work for another. And I made a video, and again I had to kind of clickbait it in a way that was very much like this trick is, going to hold you back, blah, blah, blah. And actually it was something that was holding my mixes back, and it was all about the sustain and the low end and how I'd find how to fix it. And I did it on a track that I was working on, and I fixed the low end in it, and I found this issue. So it was something that I found that I was actually working on that I felt I could share with other people. But even at that, just because it worked for me doesn't mean it'll work for you. Just because somebody uses a certain piece of gear doesn't mean that certain piece of gear is going to work for you. I think people need to take a bit of a step back from YouTube and maybe not watch as much as what they probably are. Because I see certain people that comment on a lot of the same channels. And I'm like, wow, you must be watching YouTube all the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, the amount of people, they email me and they're like, Paul, can I get advice on this? And honestly, like, I try not to because I'm a busy man, but like the amount of DMs that I deal with on a fucking weekly basis is crazy. Just like, and again, I always try and reply to every fucking comment to try and help people. Sometimes it gets a little bit dodgy when it's like you disagree with somebody and they've got confirmation bias, but I still try to do everything I can to help
Yeah,
people.
and people don't understand how much that takes out of you as well.
Oh, so fucking, honestly, I think what people forget is that there's times when I'm sitting with my wife and it's like we're watching someone and a comment comes in and I'm fucking taking 5 minutes because I'm autistic and I can only do one thing at one time with my ADD. And I like take 5 minutes, done. And then my wife's looking at me like, I thought you might be spending time with me. I shouldn't be fucking commenting to people.
That's a personal management thing that you've got to navigate, I think, a bit
totally.
better than that.
Now, I did mention earlier that I was going to show you a very brief example of Sonable Smart EQ4 in action. As you can see, I am utilising the Smart EQ4 grouping function in order to sort out some clashing that I had in the background vocals of this specific multitrack. If you are interested in Smart EQ4, then check out the link in the description.
The culture of people spending so much time on YouTube comes from this desire for free education. And now we're in a world where education is free. I mean, I've said it for years, you know, if someone ever says, oh, I don't know how to do that, not good enough. There is no reason on the planet that you can't do something or can't learn something. Someone says, oh, can't do that, don't have the time. Not a fucking excuse anymore. It's like people who say, oh, I didn't have time to do that for you. It's like, no, you just didn't prioritize it. If you've slept this week or you've watched TV, you've had time, you've just not prioritized it. People need to take responsibility for that kind of thing. You know, also with education, in terms of audio education, you'll have a better idea than me. You went to audio college. I went to try and be famous as a drummer college. Very different places. But ultimately, I paid for an education and you paid for an education, and that got us to where we are now, for better or worse. But what, you know, there are innumerous educational facilities around the world, colleges, universities, courses, online courses, and still YouTube is just this behemoth of a platform. So what is better in your mind, Paul? Getting all the information you can on YouTube for free, or going to a reputable, arguably possibly expensive university for education? And for those listening outside of the UK, tuition fees for university, or school as you call it in America, has just gone up to about £9,500 a year, which I think for the education they deliver at our universities is pretty dismal.
I'm going to be controversial here. I think with YouTube now, I think there's many parts of audio education that is a bit unnecessary now. I think the good thing about, you know, what I went through with I had a degree, I had a university degree, then I had a 2-year college course. Now, the good thing about the college course was that I took more from that than the degree. The college course taught me the practical physicalities of actually being in a studio. You know what I mean? This is, even to the part where this is how you like fucking loop your cables, you know, this is a converter, this is that. And I think that that's something that's really important, because getting access to studios is really difficult. The runners just don't fucking exist anymore. You know, being able just to sit in studios don't exist anymore. So I think from a practical point of view, that's really beneficial, because you could sit there and watch all the YouTube tutorials you want. There's a big difference between thinking you could do it based on YouTube to actually being in a session and having to work on a fucking piece of gear. Again, I spoke about it. I'm not going to go into detail, but we done a video ages ago and we talked about bad experiences. and I talked about an experience I had with a whole live sound thing.
There's a great
and I
mum
was
joke
like,
in that episode,
what
if I
the
remember
fuck?
rightly.
Yeah, there was, yeah. And it was just I thought I was clued up, but it was only until I got into it, I was like, oh, okay, this is different. And those are the experiences that I think really, really kind of teach you the important, valuable skills to become a professional. I think also what is quite important is that in many audio colleges, they don't have the budgets to say like your audio animals and stuff like that. And so I think what's good is that a lot of the times they teach you how to make records using, not the most expensive of gear. Like when I was at college, like I know they've got a few 500 stuff in now, and I think they've maybe got an 1176 in there. But we didn't have like any famous piece of outboard. It was basic outboard. It was like I can't remember what it was, like a liquid channel something and basic ass stuff. But what it did was it taught you to get the best out of what you had. It was all about mic choice, mic placement. It was all about getting the performance. It wasn't like you sat down like if you were on Blackbird and like, yeah, so we put it through this 1073 and then we put it through this API and then we put it through this and we put it through that and we used this fucking, $40,000 mic. It was like, right, okay, we've got a Neumann U87, but we've also got a 57, we've also got fucking a Rode, we've also got this, we've got that. And they were a lot of core skills that I still take with me. And it's one of the reasons why I don't get really enamored with really expensive audio gear, because I see the bullshit behind it. Because, I was taught that, you can make good sounding records, with, the minimal of equipment. We're blessed. We talked about it last week. We talked about the technological age and how blessed we are. And I do think there is a benefit to audio education from that point of view, as long as it's practical. The uni fucking degree, what an absolute waste of time. It was 2 years wasted. I was making fucking boulder sounds for a game because, it was an integration with the gaming side of it. Many people will say, yeah, like obviously Rockstar Games was, started off in Dundee, which is, where I'm from. And that's where the university was. So there's still a big integration with the gaming side. But I was sitting there going, like, I thought I was going to get into music. And I'm sitting here, doing a fucking, a radio drama of fucking Edgar Allan Poe. Like, what the fuck is, what benefit is this?
I mean, that's where the
to
education
me?
system in the UK is flawed. Like, there were people on
Hit and
my
miss.
performance degree writing a 10,000 word dissertation. I was like, I came to London to play drums, not write fucking essays. Teach me drums. I didn't do the dissertation, I did the performance course, but I was very confused by the people who had come to study an instrument and then just want to write about something theoretically only just related to what we're doing.
You know what I did a 5,000 word essay on? Silence. Genuinely did a 5,000 word essay on fucking silence.
Your wife hasn't read that, has she?
No, she's definitely not read that, Jesus. And I think that, this is a bit of a hodgepodge video. I think we're realising that whilst me and Ed are making it.
I made notes for chapters and we've just wish-washed around it, but that's what we do, guys.
But yeah, I think where we're coming to, right, is that we're wanting to obviously shed a bit of a light in a kind of PC way to a certain extent about, the way that YouTube has went. And that there are certain parts of YouTube that are really beneficial. Like, as we said, all the information's out there for you. It's just that the difficulty is that it's overly saturated and there is, I'd say too much of it. And people are getting confused because one person will tell you I can press a kick drum that way and another person will tell you, no, that's wrong, do it this way. I mean, if you type in how to EQ a kick drum, there'll be like fucking 150 ways of how to do it and so many different tools. Some people will say, oh no, you have to use analog. Oh no, you have to use digital. You have to use this plugin. Even like Mixbus. It's like, don't use this on your Mixbus. He uses that. He doesn't use that. It's very confusing. And again, I want to bring this back to the point of that people are paying me for me to mentor them with the knowledge that I'm not where I want to be. How crazy is that? Is that YouTube has got all the information out there, but it's so confusing with so many conflicting opinions that people just want somebody to sit down and go, have you tried that?
It's not crazy because it's about trust. And I think a topic that comes up regularly for me is course material. And I've been asked many times if I want to write and film courses, and many people have suggested it. I don't feel like it's right for me for various reasons, but there are many YouTubers who do courses. I know Nicholas is doing some courses at the moment. I've seen one of his mastering courses, and it was genuinely very good content. So I think in the community, you will gravitate towards certain people, and if you trust them like people trust you, Paul, and this is why I think you should maybe consider some course material at some point, people will buy into that, and they're buying into the personality, and people coming to you for coaching sessions is exactly that. They trust you, and if you could extrapolate that into a course and then, put that out there, that could be a great source of passive income that people will clearly pay you for, and you will make money for something you did a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago.
And I get that, but let me tell you the reason why I won't do it is because I'm not, in my opinion, at the level where I want to be. I want to make content about things that I know I've got experience in. So see, right now, I am kind of slowly becoming, without sounding like an egotistical bitch, I am kind of becoming like the guy on YouTube for mixing on headphones. Like many people are making videos based on, the information that I've been given out, which really was taught to me by fucking Emre Çelik. And then I went out on my own and made a lot of experiences for myself. I take a lot of joy out of that because I think it's kind of rejuvenated my channel, and it's kind of made me feel a bit better about making content again. I mean, even the crossfeed video that I made this week, I know that's a good video. I know I've struck a kind of a chord with certain people, and I know that I've kind of figured out a few things that not many people know, and I've been able to explain crossfeed in a way that I don't think really anybody else has really done on YouTube. Maybe it is out there, but I've not really found it. And I think that's what I think we need to be doing more as content creators, is instead of rehashing the same thing. And I've said this to many, many people. I've said this to like 15 people, 20 people that have reached out to me about starting up an audio YouTube channel. And I've always said to them, what are you planning on doing? Planning on doing that? It's been done. Planning on doing that? It's been done. Planning on doing that? It's been done. It's like the only way that you could release that is if you are doing something that has never been done before. And I think Nicholas was good in that perspective, where he was able to go down, the rabbit holes. He is able to think scientifically and show you in a way that kind of really helps people. Dan Worrell, for example, is long and it's hefty content. And sometimes you need to watch it 2 or 3 times for things to sink in. But like, he is, in my opinion, the most trusted like audio science guy on this platform. And he knows a lot of great stuff, and he knows how to teach things, and he knows, what's bullshit, what's not bullshit. And even he's not fucking perfect, at the end of the day, we all kind of, can get caught out from time to time.
Even he gets trolled unnecessarily.
Yeah, even he gets trolled. Yeah, but I think that what's important is that as viewers, that you have a responsibility to not get sucked into a lot of the you need this, you need that, and all this is new and shiny. That's the reason why I don't really make products about stuff I'm not interested in. Like many people would say, oh, but you just done a fucking video on the topping E8X8. Yeah, I know, because I wanted it. I think it would baffle people if I got that topping E8X8 and I didn't make a video about it. They'd be like, wait, so you chose to put that in your studio, you're using that every day, you've got that for a specific reason. We want you to talk about that because that's what we're looking for. What people are looking for is, talking about pieces of, equipment that are integral to your workflow, that are integral to you working. At the end of the day, that a lot of the things that me and Ed have, like the reason that he's went down, the fucking Wes Audio route and sold a lot of analog gear and replaced it with Wes Audio, is down to practicality. So it's down to workflow. It's about recallability. And, and that's the things that I think, when he makes videos on that, people will not see it as, oh, he's a Wes Audio shill because he fucking paid for the stuff. It's one of those things where, at the end of the day, he's made a decision. And I think that as long as we make videos about our decisions, yeah, it's okay to make the odd video, but we should be complementing that with educational content from our own experiences. I think, again, recording Studio Loser, remember we met him in LA. Jeremy makes a lot of great content about actually working in the moment, and a lot of his content will be, oh, this happened this week, as like Nicholas does in his sessions.
Because it's relatable. And that was our decision with the podcast, to make it relatable. And that's been my decision.
Correct.
Largely, besides a few big hitting interface related videos that I've had to do because my core audience is interface related. I've wanted to document my journey in the studio. So there's a lot of speaker content, and there's more speaker content coming for those who want to know why the PSIs have gone. That's been written.
And know what? And I think that it's important to be able to still discuss these things, because this is what I find funny, is that people be like, oh, all you do is talk about gear. Guess what happens when you put a fucking room of audio engineers together? What do they speak about? They speak about fucking gear. What do you mean him speak about? Like, should I tell people what we're speaking about? Yeah, okay, I'll tell them, right? Me and Ed are talking a lot about the APB from Mic DSP right now. We've been chatting quite a lot about that and having, a few split opinions, and me obviously having a few very strong opinions.
Leave a comment which side of the fence you think both of us sit on.
But at the end of the day, like, me and Ed talk about gear all the time. Like, for example, my topping D93 discrete came in, and it's like, I'm going to make a video on it because I'm so excited, and I'm excited to make that video because it's something that I really, really, really want. And I've genuinely, on YouTube, I want to watch content about people talking about stuff that they've got and they really honestly use and enjoy, because I like hearing the perspective of an honest opinion. The problem is that YouTube has turned into a place where that's coming in. And I think a lot of American YouTubers, again, I feel maybe we're being maybe a bit harsh, but it does seem to be coming from a lot of the American side. I think a lot of the LA side especially. There does seem to be a lot of, product placement, and there does seem to be a lot of, this has came out, so I'm going to talk to you about it. This is my new favorite delay plugin. You know what I mean? And you're never going to probably use it again. And oh yeah, this is this new pair of mics came out. Never going to use them again. You're never going to use that again. You're never going to use that again. And people are watching this going, this is like, you're genuinely just being paid to talk about something. And that's why I love what me and Ed do, is that if we're not interested in something, we're not going to make a video about it.
Even as far as the sponsors of the podcast, we agreed before we did this that we wouldn't have mid-roll adverts, otherwise you'd have had probably half a dozen YouTube adverts by this point in the episode. Yep. And also we'd only take sponsorship from brands that we actually use. And we do use Baby Audio. I use a Baby Audio delay in every session. And we use Sonable plugins in every session.
Smart EQs on every one of my Macs. I was using Smart Limit for fucking God knows how long until Master Plan came up. I even started using fucking Smart Reverb in certain things just to kind of give us a bit of a different perspective.
It works. DistroKid hosts a range of visually engaging social media promotion tools to help your release stand out from the crowd. Creative and colourful social media cards incorporate your artwork to help your release stand out. These are free to download and can be highly effective promoting your release. DistroKid also offer mini videos, which are free, short, customizable videos incorporating your artwork and a short clip of your track. And if this wasn't enough, DistroKid also have a tool to create a Spotify canvas generator, which is the video that plays in the background when you're playing a song on Spotify. Simply choose a theme and choose from dozens of different creative artwork concepts. These are free to use and great for engaging your audience, available on DistroKid. For an additional subscription of $8.25 a month, you can get your music videos distributed to Apple Music, Vivo, and Tidal, and you'll keep 100% of your royalties. With DistroVid from DistroKid.
And I think if we could come to a conclusion about it, right, I'd say that, the question at the start of the video was, is YouTube ruining, the future of, audio engineering? I'd say in certain aspects, yes, because I think that from a psychological point of view, it is making you dependent on other people to tell you what to do. You're dependent on other people to tell you what to buy. You're dependent on, even, fucking what to charge. There'll be people out there that'll say, oh, so-and-so's charging that, so I'll do that. So-and-so's using this plugin, so I need to use it. I've got a vocal chain that works, but so-and-so's using this vocal chain, so I need to change it about. I need to buy a 1073 because, so-and-so uses it. That's where we are right now. And what me and Ed are telling you is that, we've been through a lot of great equipment, and went through a lot of great plugins. And, mixing is very, very, very simple. If you watch the interviews, there's a playlist that we've got with all the interviews that we've done. Watch them, and you'll be amazed at how simple, mixing is. And they're just like, what comes in. But even the last, I think one of the last interviews we had was Sam, and I asked him about a record that he had made. I was like, the vocal was incredible. What vocal processing did you put on that? And he was just like, bit of EQ. Don't even know if it did some compression. That was at Rachel Platten. But at the end of the day, right, if it was to be that simple, then YouTubers, like all of these YouTubers that are like tips this and genre tips and, you know what I mean, like EDM, this and that, and you get people that specify in genres, they wouldn't fucking be able to make a career out of this because they'd have no content to make, because if everybody knew how simple mixing can be, you know what I mean, then they wouldn't be able to make videos.
I think on the positive side, though, the abundance of information on YouTube is a wonderful thing. Like I said earlier, that there is no excuse not to know something. And if you've got a hole in your knowledge base like I had with clippers, go and fill it. And YouTube has a million videos on clippers, and find the thumbnail and title that works for you, and find the YouTuber and the personality that delivers information at a speed that you like, in a way that you like, with audio examples that you like. There is something out there for everyone. I just think it's difficult to find what it is that works for you. And for me, I think the comparative nature of YouTube dwells pretty heavy, and comparison is the thief of joy. It's very easy to compare our studios to other people's studios. You know, I've got an amazing studio now. Even I compare it to other people, less than I used to. You know, I may not have X knowledge or X credit or X opportunity, but we've got to be grateful for what we have. I know I'm just saying that having sold a load of analog gear, but I did learn it all before I've shifted it out, and shifted it because I've learned it and realised there's other things that are fulfilling my needs. So my suggestions would be always compete, but only with yourself from yesterday. Be better than you were yesterday.
And my last kind of piece of advice would be, whilst it's great that all this information is out on YouTube, if there's one bit of advice that I know will really help you out, is that, for example, Ed said, you know, he learned about clippers, right? Now, what many people will do is they will watch one video about clippers, then they'll watch 2 videos, then 3 videos, then 4 videos, then 5 videos, and then before they're not, they've watched 15 videos. All you need is one video. And that video should lead you to do it yourself. Almost the solution to this is to do more things yourself. So if somebody says a clipper, you go, okay, I'll go out and try that. And I know many people that do this on YouTube, audience members, and they'll be like, we'll watch a video I made and be like, oh yeah, so you like that, right? They don't watch any other video on it. They just get it, a demo. Know what, Paul, it wasn't for me. All right, okay, cool, job done. That's it. That is it done. And I think that we need to do more things ourselves. As Ed said earlier, people slagging Universal Audio when they've not even fucking tried it. You know what I mean? Again, I could be a little bit like that. I could look at an audio science review and I could, you know, make comments like, yeah, but really theoretically from a scientific point of view, probably shouldn't have, I don't think that'll probably work well, doesn't measure well. Should I really be commenting on it if I've not tried it physically for myself? Probably not, and I need to fucking learn from that as well. It's a learning curve, right? And we need to always remember that if you've not tried something, then shut your fucking mouth.
It's like if you've not tried them, don't judge them. Oh no, I'll have to edit that out. We'll get banned from YouTube talking about that. On that bombshell, it's been emotional again. Please keep commenting. We do like engaging with you. Please like, subscribe, and share the podcast. And if you can, leave a review on Apple. And I'm not sure if you can leave reviews on Spotify, but if you can, please do. All helps with the algorithms to get this information further afield. And if you haven't heard any of our interviews with people, there is a playlist, as Paul said, and the interviews are just brilliant. And it's not us that make it brilliant. It is the guests who just deliver leagues of information, gold information that everyone can learn something from. So I would encourage you, after you've heard this episode, to go and listen to an interview. On that bombshell, he's been Paul Third, I've been Ed Thorne. We've been the Working Audio Tools.